first, we got 2 more basketball commits for new head coach Bucky McMillan. It starts with Marcus Hill, former NC State guard, also played at, I believe it was
Bowling Green.
Bowling Green for a while. He was also a JUCO. Thank you for that. Thank you for catching that. Very, very productive player, one of the better offensive guards. Had a little bit of a down year shooting the three. Obviously, I think he shot 45% from the field last season. So, kind of a guy that you can count on to get inside, give you some looks in the paint. And today, Tuesday morning, we heard that Bucky McMillan had landed his 8th commit from the transfer portal in Jamie Vinson, the 4th, who obviously some people alluded having the 4th at the end of his name is a good sign for things to come, obviously, with AC Law and Wade Taylor, now the all-time leading scorer departing the program. So maybe that's something good to come. He is a freshman forward, obviously played with the Longhorns last season. A player very interesting, was a 3-star recruit in the 24 class, someone who can really do a lot of good things, just wasn't utilized 100% last season the way he should have. Obviously, he was a younger guy in a big pond with a lot of talented guys ahead of him. So he can stretch the floor. He's somebody who can shoot at a high level. And I think he's a perfect fit with what McMillan wants to do. We'll obviously have to see, but you can kind of tell the trend is that he's getting players that fit his system perfectly. And so what do you think of both those new pickups?
Yeah, so we'll start with Marcus Hill. Now, people are immediately going to point out a less than acceptable three-point shooting percentage, but that's only because he took only in the mid-30s in attempts this past season, only made about 8 or 9. So he knows what he is good at, and that is getting to the lane and getting up to the rim. He was NC State's leading scorer. Obviously, he gets 2 more years thanks to the new JUCO ruling. But Marcus Hill is going to be a guy where even in Bucky McMillan's system of, hey, we want to get down the court, we want to take a bunch of threes, we want to make a bunch of threes, he's going to be the guy that ends up penetrating the paint and ends up finding these open shooters, whether it's in the corner, pick and roll, top of the key. He's going to find these guys. Moving on towards Vinson. Now, he's an insanely raw prospect right now. Like you said, 3-star back in the 2024 cycle out of Oak Hill. He actually, fun fact, played in 2022 Oak Hill with Josh Holloway, who is now a member of the Aggies as well. So a kind of little fun reunion for these two right here. But he's a 6'11" guy, huge wingspan. I mean, this is a guy who has a lot of untapped potential that I think the staff was looking for, and someone who they could actually build up in their system and continue to try and find these guys that they can build on as they go from year 1 to year 2, looking down the line.
Yeah, and Vincent, when I kind of did a deep dive into his film, and a couple people provided some really nice quick clips of what he can do. Obviously, when you only play 1 season at the college level, and like I said earlier, he played for a Texas team who just had a lot of guys in front of him, so he played limited minutes. I think he only appeared in 9 games. Did some good things. Like, you showed off that athleticism, ability, like I said, to stretch the floor, and shot at a very high percentage. But someone like Zach Clements, so one of my editors with USA Today, he's a big Kansas fan. And immediately when A&M picked up Clements, who none of us really knew a ton about, right? He'd been sitting on the bench for a while. We knew he was a San Antonio native. He had some connections, obviously, to the area. But he immediately told me, like, you've gained a potential star next season. And based on what he can do, and again, like Vincent, this guy can make plays when he's utilized correctly, and especially given the time to develop and given more minutes and that confidence boost. When you play for Kansas, there's got to be something going on of where you're just with a bunch of star players, a lot of former 5-star guys who may just play in front of you, a lot of transfer portal additions that, because Kansas is one of those huge landing spots for more of the productive transfer portal guys. I'm not saying A&M has gotten a ton of those this offseason, but it's just different, right? It's a different environment. So when he's now coming to a Texas A&M team where, as we're talking about Clements, who's probably going to end up playing a lot more, and the way that McMillan can use his skill set, like Vincent, these are 2 guys that if you look at the point of our existence, actually, as sports writers, I would say, is to give you more in depth context about what these guys can bring. And we haven't done a ton on both these guys yet. Obviously, Vincent just committed, so we'll take time to watch his film more and kind of see what he can do. But I think that Bucky McMillan has already gained a lot of the trust from the fan base based on what he did at Sanford and what he did at the high school level. Of he can take these 1 to 2 star guys and turn them into double-digit scorers with high shooting percentages. And again, this is basketball. This isn't football or other or baseball or other sports where the talent level is so different sometimes, because we've seen a lot of these smaller school guys in the transfer portal era. And we talked about with Florida, winning the championship this year. A lot of those guys were no names, right? From very small schools. Iona was a big name in their program. And again, these were under-recruited players who, because scouts believed they were undersized or they just weren't skilled enough or whatever, they proved that's bull, right? It just doesn't matter now, because in today's age, these guys are just under the radar a lot of the times. And we kind of saw go 360 here with the NFL draft, right? Going with like Shador Sanders, and a lot of people thought that he could be a top 2 pick, but then other scouts thought, we're not going to waste a top pick on him because of X, Y, and Z. It's just a different world in scouting today. So especially with basketball, I'm not saying don't trust them when they rank these players, but we're going to see with Texas A&M this year that outside of Mackenzie Macabo, who I'm going to butcher his name, but
you're good.
I mean, 5-star, number 2 ranked player in the 23 class. You saw that skill set at Indiana. Again, he's playing at Indiana, one of the great basketball programs, averaging 12 points a game the last 2 seasons. That's going to translate to the SEC. I mean, I think that's going to be pretty seamless. And you'll see why he was a 5-star prospect. But guys like Josh Holloway and Vincent and others, especially Holloway, who, I mean, if we'd have to look at his recruiting background, it probably wasn't a high-ranked player. Maybe he wasn't ranked at all. He's going to give you something off the bench. He averaged nearly 8 points a game with Sanford last year because he's a veteran. He's played a ton of games. And again, basketball is about reps. It's about how well you can shoot, how well you can pass, how well you can play defense. And I get that there's some talent barometers going to the next level of play, but the cast of characters he's assembled so far is, I'm going to be honest, I would put this team as an underrated NCAA tournament bid stealing team right now. And that's just with the players he has left. He's still going to add more, but he's added star power with McKenzie, and he's added a ton of depth. And, in his system, I've heard this from some people who are smarter in basketball than I am, that he could end up playing, a 3-guard system more often. And Macabo is probably more of that wing guy. And, there are issues with, they don't have enough depth in the front court, but adding Vincent today is a big deal, even though he's not the bulkiest guy, still 6'11". Federico, who I just saw, an outlet kind of put a prediction out there that A&M was a favorite to land him. That's not official yet, but at least that's kind of gaining steam. That's another very productive big. He's making gains and he's doing a fantastic job. And we said this last week that, there was still more to come, and you teased some stuff, but 2 key commitments in the past 2 days, just a week after gaining guys like Duke Miles. I mean, he's off and running, and he's going to turn this team, I believe now, into a fringe tournament team or better.
Yeah, like you said, the talent barometer that he's already put onto the team as of right now, luring these guys in for a year 1, I think in my mind as of right now, I would probably have it graded as a second 4-out type of NCAA team as currently constructed now. Now, this is not saying that they could go out there and land 5 or 6 other guys to fill out the rest of the roster with the people that are in the portal and then make that much better or worse. But for the talent that he has already acquired, and the staff has done a great job at talent IDing in such a short time with what they had, to find these guys that are going to fit right into the system seamlessly. Now, whether that is a Duke Miles, whether that is a Josh Holloway, who is familiar already with the system that he runs. And we saw he is a SoCon defensive first team and 6th man of the year. So he already has these guys that have fit the system and the mold. And I think you alluded to it too a little bit more, is we see these teams in the NCAA tournament, like Florida, for instance. You said Walter Clayton from Iona. You have Will Richard from FAU. Have all these guys from we'll say not as power conferences right now, but you can find the exact skill type of player you want at any level. It's just a matter of, with the madness that the transfer portal is right now, how can you get them onto your campus? And I think that that's the challenge that Bucky and his staff have had to face so far, is finding the guys that were already in the portal with the time they had. And I know it was probably not a lot of time to begin with, but they have done a really consistent job of finding the guys and then getting them onto campus for the visits, getting them familiar with what he wants to do and how he envisions the program here in College Station a little bit more down the line.
Yeah, because we talked about that. For him to make a real impact in year one, it's really like you just said, and I think that there's already been some really early predictions with tournaments and stuff that has come out as of late. And actually, you're right. That's kind of they're really a fringe second out type of team, and that's progress, right? That's a lot of progress to make it there from where they were, less than a month ago, where Chris McDermott was the only player on the roster, and bringing up Holloway. And that's why it's very interesting, because, a guy like Holloway, who's going to now be with a much more talented roster than he's been with during his Samford career, just based on recruiting rankings and, what these guys have done in the past, he's going to be able to, as well as McMillan, communicate to the rest of the players, this is how we did it at Samford, right? This is how we ran this press defense. This is how much energy you had to expel each time. This is what, this is why we like our bigs to pop out and shoot a three and kind of keep guys off guard. We're not just a basic offense and a basic shooting team like, let's say, Buzz Williams, to be honest. And I shouldn't say that because he just landed one of the top recruits. I mean, whatever. But like, it's going to be kind of a funny ride to watch Buzz Williams do different things, on the recruiting trail with Maryland than he did with A&M. But either way, they got the right coach for that. They got somebody who is not just going to bring the excitement, but he's going to bring a lot of wins and a lot of surprise wins that we used to see when Alabama became a team to watch. The way they played offense and the way they pulled off certain victories early in trying to blanking on the name of Alabama's head coach right now. But it's one of those things where when you have a brand new roster, but you have a lot of excitement, especially for the fan base completely behind you, it's going to help you. It's going to help you pull off that kind of magical season that's just going to add more momentum down the line going into the offseason, where then he's going to have full grasp of this program, more national appeal, and you're going to end up recruiting very respectable classes. And if you can already do what you're doing in the transfer portal, and like you said, he's already mastered getting guys on campus, keeping them there, signing them. And we saw that obviously on Monday and Tuesday. He has not failed at that yet. And if he can do that now, build a roster, have a lot of those guys return for next season, he's going to keep doing what the Floridas of the world are doing. You just keep adding talent every year, and that's going to get them to where they want to go in the NCAA tournament going forward.
Exactly. And I will say there is a little bit of breaking news, if you don't mind me putting it on here. Yeah, so as of right now, just got word that Federico is on A&M's campus as of right now for a visit.
Okay.
He will be at the Texas A&M baseball game that is going on right now.
With Lamar right now. Okay. That's something we did not hear yet. We had heard some rumblings that he had a future visit set up. So that is another big name. I mean, that's the thing. I think if you can land him, which for anybody who's watched Texas Tech, obviously watching them in the tournament, this was a guy who averaged, I believe, like 5 points a game this season, about maybe 4.5 rebounds, or maybe more than that. Great defensive player. One of those guys who, again, we talk about perfect fits and systems, would be a beyond perfect fit in what McMillan wants to run, and would end up solidifying that front court. I believe maybe they need one more player but another 6'11" guy with a little more weight to him compared to a Vincent, obviously way more experience. And that's what they're lacking is experience in the front court right now. Guys who have been there, especially guys with NCAA tournament experience. Obviously, Texas Tech had a really magical run this year, could have made it even farther than they did. So that's a big deal. Thanks for breaking that. It's always fun to have news kind of break when you're doing a live show.